So, what do we do when there's been a rupture in an intimate relationship? When somebody does something that triggers the other person or breaks their trust, or maybe something happens that both people feel that their trust has been broken or that they feel triggered or otherwise activated. Repair is really important because there's no relationship without conflict. Even the most perfect relationships will have conflict. That's what happens when we get intimate with each other. And oftentimes, we don't know how to handle this conflict. We don't know how to come back together and into intimacy. So I'm going to go over the 9 steps of relationship repair and what you can do to come back to connection after there's been a rupture or when there's hurt feelings, so that we can actually experience these as intimacy building opportunities rather than intimacy rupturing catastrophic events. So the first step is to recognize that you're in an emotional conversation, that something big is happening, that this isn't going to be just talking about what you're going to make for dinner, although sometimes those can cause these difficult conversations as well. They can bring up things, the simplest conversations. But the first step is to recognize that there's some heaviness, there might be some difficulty, that emotions are present. Step number 1. Step number 2 is gauge how activated you are. Do you feel like you want to run out of the room? Are you in a fight or flight response? Are you in a freeze response? On a, generally on a scale of 1 to 10, with 0 being like totally chill, 10 being in a complete trauma response. You don't want to have a conversation until you're down to about a 3 to a 5. So if you're in a big emotional reaction and it's, they feel the need to come into some kind of conversation around it, take a few deep breaths, maybe take some space, do something to take care of yourself and take care of your nervous system so you can get closer to baseline. You might not get all the way to neutral, you might get all the way to that 0, but getting out of the activated state is important, because if one of you is in an activated state, it's just going to create more rupture. So that's number 2. Is to gauge your activation level and wait to have the conversation until you're both under 5. And then the next step is to remember that you love each other, and to give your partner the benefit of the doubt. And to give yourself even the benefit of the doubt, to recognize that you didn't mean to hurt each other, that whatever happened wasn't intended to cause pain or to cause this rupture, and to have faith in that you're both doing your best, that neither of you meant to hurt the other person. So during a tense conversation, it can be really challenging to remember that. So maybe even taking a few deep breaths to acknowledge and say that out loud. I know you're doing your best. I know that you want the best for me. I know that you didn't mean to hurt me. And I didn't mean to hurt you. That's number 3. Number 4 is decide who goes first. Generally, the person who is feeling most triggered or felt the most triggered around it would go first, or the one bringing the repair conversation. But sometimes both of you are equally in that space. So just decide who's going to go first. And it's really important in this process for both partners to feel fully heard, that it's not just the person that's bringing the conversation or who was triggered getting to say their piece, but that they are heard as well as the partner. Everybody's heard. The 5th step is to share vulnerably. So whoever is sharing first, they speak from their own experience, starting with I statements. I felt this. When this happened, I felt blank. I felt angry. I felt sad. Not say you made me feel angry, or what you did was terrible, or you're a horrible person, or this should never have happened. But when this happened, accepting that this happened, this is how I felt. And so when the first person is going, really speaking from their own experience without as little as possible projecting on what the other person meant by it, what they intended. Oh, you meant to hurt me, or you were rejecting me. I felt rejected rather than you rejected me. Own that. It could be true that they rejected you, but what's the ultimate truth is how it felt for you. And in those conversations, and when you're speaking from the I, there's nothing to argue with. It's what you felt. But when you speak from you rejected me, the partner might be like, no, I didn't. I didn't experience it that way. So it's best to speak from your own experience with I statements. The person that's not speaking, their job is this is step 6, is to listen and respond empathetically. Oh, yeah, I could see how you could feel that. Or I'm hearing that when this happened, you felt this way, or it activated this trigger, or whatever else. To empathize with what the other person is feeling. And this is really important so that the person that's shared vulnerably can feel heard. And that way, if there's some inaccuracies, if you're like, no, you didn't hear this part right, you can go back to sharing vulnerably until the person that was sharing feels fully heard. That's step number 6. So then the person that just listened and responded empathetically, then they get to acknowledge their own patterns, take some ownership over what happened in this situation. So they might say, oh yeah, I have a tendency to shut down when I'm feeling stressed, and I can see how you would take that as rejection, for example. Or I can see how my behavior would feel like I was rejecting you. Or, yeah, I acknowledge that I'm really uncomfortable talking about my desires, and so I avoided talking to you about it, and then this thing blew up. So acknowledging whatever part in it that you really can take responsibility for. Not trying to appease the other person or say what they want to hear, but really taking it to heart and listening and saying, yeah, I have this part of myself, and I can see how that would have that impact on you. And then that person provides some kind of reassurance. And usually not, I will never do that again, or this will never happen again, we'll never fight over the dishes again, but more like, I see how this impacts you, and maybe next time I'm feeling shut down, I'll share about that. Rather, I'll do my best to share that I feel shut down so that you understand what's going on for me, and maybe that will help it feel better, or you won't take it as rejection. Something that you can actually assure, something you can actually take responsibility for. Again, it's not going to be, we're never going to fight about this again, because that's just impossible. And then you go the other way. If the other person has things that they want to share vulnerably about how the situation impacted them, you repeat those steps. And then the last step, in going the other way, you would repeat steps 5 through 8. Then step 9 is to reconnect. So find something to do that brings you into connection, whether it's just a hug, eye contact, getting coffee together, going on a walk together, something that you enjoy, where you can put the conversation down. You know, you've stopped talking about it. You've gotten through everything that you needed to say. We can move forward and really feel each other in connection again. It really can be as simple as a hug. The last step, number 9, is to come back into connection. I hope these are helpful, and I'm curious if you get to try them. I would love to hear how it works out for you, and or if you have a conversation that you know needs to happen that you might bring this conversation to. I would love to hear about that too, and if I can support you in any way, let me know. Thank you so much. Goodbye for now.